Cloudcast Media presents from the massive studios in Raleigh, North Carolina. This is the Cloudcast with Aaron Delp and Brian Gracely, bringing you the best of cloud computing from around the world.
Good morning, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome back to the Cloudcast. We are coming to you live from the massive Cloudcast studios here in Raleigh, North Carolina. One of the last shows of the year. I think we've got one more weekend perspective. Actually, we'll do this one. We'll probably do one more before the end of the year, and I know Aaron and I have one more show to get out. Maybe two more shows. Look at the calendar, but we'll be going pretty much right up to the end of the year, and then we're going to take a little break right after that. But hope everybody's doing well. Like I said, another weekend perspective. And I got to thinking about some things, with kind of, we've been doing some year-end wrap-up stuff. We've been doing sort of year of cloud and year of AI, and this concept of AGI, or augmented general intelligence, or generative intelligence, general intelligence, whatever AGI means in your world, kept coming up, and we were kind of doing, reviews of where things have been. And it really kind of dawned on me that, there is this perception that, at some point, the researchers and the people training models and people using models and so forth at some point are gonna hit this milestone of AGI. And I started sort of digging into it, and I was like, why does it matter? Why does it really? Who cares if we reach some milestone? And because I kept coming back to this idea of a show that we had done many years ago with Sam Charrington, who runs a great This Week in AI and ML TWIML podcast. Go check it out if you're also deeply into AI, especially kind of want to dive into the guts of things. But Sam made a statement because we were asking him about certain things, and again, this was probably 4 or 5 years ago. I have to go find to put a link in the show notes. But he basically said, the one of the problems with AI is people constantly are sort of looking for some moment, like when will we know that AI is capable of whatever it is? And he said, the reality is that it's like anything else. It's like any other science. It's like any other technology. It's just kind of constantly evolving. And so what ends up happening is our expectations of what it should do or what it's capable of doing, this kind of what the old phrase is, the goalposts keep moving, right? So what you thought was the goal, what you thought was the finish line, just moves again because we go, if that's what it is, well, I'm sure we can do better, and let's move on. And so I got to thinking about, these companies that are sort of running around talking about AGI and trying to claim, when we'll find it. And there's a piece in the OpenAI and Microsoft agreement that states, if AGI is achieved, and how will we know if it's achieved? And if that happens, then their relationship changes in several significant ways, mostly having to do with control and revenues and so forth. But I started digging into it a little bit, kind of wondering, well, why does all this matter? What does it matter? And a couple of things kind of came to mind. The first one was, as I was diving into it and looking at kind of all the major frontier labs and so forth, whether it's OpenAI or Anthropic or Mistral or the cloud providers, Microsoft and Azure and Google and so forth, they all have a completely different kind of perspective on AGI. I put a bunch of links in the show notes. And, everything from, people talking about, well, when we achieve it in 2027, or when we achieve it, in 2029 or in 2038 or whenever it might be, all the way to, some folks just saying, well, it's just a marketing move. And and I got to thinking about it, and I was trying to put it into perspective in terms of, other sort of milestones that we may have used in the past from a technology perspective. And, did any of it matter? And, I started kind of going through this thing in my mind in which, number one, nobody has a consistent or measurable definition of AGI, right? People talk about it as if, we'll know it when we get there, right? The folks, one of the guys who's on the board of OpenAI, named Brett Taylor, who has been at Google and Salesforce and done a number of important things. He'll make a statement like, well, I think we've gotten to AGI multiple times and we've passed it multiple times, and you sort of go, okay, well, he's a pretty smart guy. That sort of reinforces the the idea that the goalposts sort of change. But I got to thinking about it. I was trying to frame it in a way that I was like, does it matter? And have we ever really, had something like this where it sort of mattered? And, you go back in time And we've had stuff like the Y2K bug. So for those of you not old enough, this was, the concern that when the clocks on computers flipped from 1999 to 2000, that because so many dates at the time were saved in two decimal point or two digit references, that it might think that we had flipped back to 1900 and all sorts of things were going to break, right? So a lot of work got done to patch that. We have an upcoming thing in 2038. Sometimes it's called the apocalypse epoch. This is where the dates on Linux and Unix systems are going to have problems and so forth. And so we've had moments in computing history in which trying to put a date on something was an important thing, but they were mostly kind of patching things because the systems had evolved over time. They were built back in a previous generation or multiple generations before, whether it was for hardware or software reasons. And we went about patching this. Well, AGI, nobody ever talks about sort of like, well, we're going to have to patch the system once we get to AGI. They sort of talk about it as if it's some milestone. But I got to thinking about it more, and it's like we've never really thought about things that way in computing. I mean, we've never said like, well, when we reach a percentage of people with internet access, the world is going to unlock all sorts of new things, right? Like, it's evolved and the world has changed because people have, many more people have universal internet access. When a percentage of people get to having access to a smartphone and the types of things that they can do when they have computing essentially in their hands or in their pockets. And we've never set a date or tried to measure something about that. We've just said, as we reach, greater numbers of what that will be, we will see certain behaviors evolve. But it wasn't as if all of a sudden, somebody was saying, well, when we reach, 78% of people with internet access and 93% of people with smartphones, we will unlock amazing new levels of problem solving for humanity, right? We've just sort of gone with that. We've never looked at the number of people with a certain level of education and said, well, if we improve the education system and X percentage of people can get to get past elementary school and get past middle school and get past high school, or get X percentage have advanced degrees, then humanity is going to unlock certain things. We've never done that before, and so it really, we've also never, essentially said like, how much smarter is humanity than 10 years ago or 20 years ago? We've never tried to mention this. We've tried never to measure it. We've never tried to sort of frame it as if something would be unlocked. But we have this weird AGI thing, and it's strange, and it feels very much like it's when you can't define it and you can't measure it, to a certain extent, it does feel a little bit like, okay, this is a scam. This is a con, right? And you read stuff. You read things like OpenAI has a very long-winded thing called Planning for AGI and Beyond, and it talks about OpenAI's charter, and it's all these things that are going to happen once we reach AGI in terms of being able to improve humanity for the greater good and be able to solve problems that humanity has struggled with. But yet, even with something like that, there isn't a top 10 list of problems that humanity needs to solve. There isn't a prioritized list amongst multiple people, and whether that is trying to solve for hunger, or trying to solve for longevity of life, or trying to solve for certain ways of building things that are maybe more efficient, or whatever that might be. There isn't anything that goes along with what happens when we get to AGI. It's just sort of this perceived thing of or I don't want to say perceived thing. It is just this sort of ongoing kind of, well, you'll just get to a better place and people will just be better for having it. And, I really kind of think about it. And, today is December 21st, 2025. I'm recording this. You'll listen to it whenever you listen to it. But let's say on December 28th, 2025, all of a sudden somebody, whoever that somebody is, says, hey, we are at AGI, right? What are the new things that a government or a corporation or an individual is going to start doing that couldn't have happened on December 27th, 2025, already having some amount of access to capabilities that are AI things kind of moving in the direction of AGI, right? So I kind of come back to this whole thing, and it gets talked about a lot. It felt like it was talked about a lot the last couple of years. What's the purpose of these frontier labs, and what's the purpose of these large models and so forth? And it's just very strange to me that it's framed such that they are chasing this, undefined, unmeasurable goal or milestone of AGI that nobody can define, nobody within the community, even though they all sort of, originated out of Google Deep Brain or Deep Mind, or whether, they were originally in OpenAI or wherever the heck they were. There is no consistency to it. There is no definition that everybody agrees to. There is no what are the priorities that will be able to unlock in terms of curing diseases or creating new metals that will be able to build things stronger, faster, whatever it might be. It does feel a little bit like it takes on a little bit of sort of religious of, well, you just have to sort of believe in it, and when you start to believe in it, then things will happen. But it is very strange for an industry or a segment of the industry that's built upon this incredibly advanced form of mathematics to be able to do all these things, that there is no measurement of it. There's measurement of, how much better something is at doing mathematics or creating words or doing languages or having multiple models or whatever it might be. But the actual impact to societies, impact to humanity, impact to science, impact to whatever is unmeasurable, and it has no timeline. And, maybe that is, kind of in a humorous way or ironic way, sort of the epitome of all of technology and all of computing, especially IT projects and so forth, that, we can't define them. We can't put a date on them. We can't tell you how much they're going to be. You just have to sort of believe in it. But I do find it a little bit humorous that there is this sort of mythical belief that at some point, any of these companies, they're in a race to get to AGI first, and yet none of them can define it. They don't know when they're going to get there. It does feel like very much just a little bit of a front in order to raise a bunch of money in order for them to just kind of carry out a commercial business with none of these other things in mind. So I think about this and I just sort of go, if an AGI falls in the woods and nobody can define it, did it actually happen? And so I'm going to make a prediction. We'll have AGI in 2031 or 2029 or 2027. I don't think it matters. I don't think anything will change at that point in time because, as I mentioned at the beginning, talking to Sam Charrington, the definition of what we care about with AI or what it means or what it can do is constantly a set of goalposts that kind of keep moving. And, on one hand, you're going to have people tell you, well, we're just a few years away from it. We're just a few years away. And yet you're going to have other people who, live in this industry, the Brett Taylors of the world who go, oh no, we've exceeded well past it multiple times. And you kind of go, yeah, I don't think it matters one way or the other. I don't think it has to be right one way or the other. So anyways, AGI will change everything everywhere, and we don't know what it is, and we don't know how to explain it. We don't know how to define it, but keep hoping, if you will, if you care. But I don't see any reason to worry about when it will happen because, again, everything around it is undefined, unmeasurable, undated, unplanned, and undefinable. So it feels like the only people that really care about this are the folks at OpenAI who have something in contract that says when they won't have to keep paying part of their royalties back to Microsoft. But beyond that, everything else is just it's just a belief system. It's just a pseudo religion, if you will. So anyways, hopefully you're not doing anything that is dependent upon an AGI time frame or a date or priority list or any of those sort of things. But if you are, cool. Let us know what your definition of it is, when you think the timing of it will come along, and what it will actually do to flip where you are today from something that you couldn't do the day before. So anyways, with that, hope you all have a very happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year as you're planning for that. If you're traveling some, hopefully you have good time with family and health and prosperity and so forth. So with that, I'll wrap it up and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening to The Cloudcast. Please visit thecloudcast.net to find more shows, show notes, videos, and everything social media.